what would Water Type Pokemon potentially look like for a Brazil-inspired Pokemon region, taking inspiration from its vibrant wildlife and culture. Water type Pokemon are not only one of the most beloved and versatile types, but one of the most prevalent Pokemon types within the wonderful world of Pokemon, found all over and coming in various shapes and sizes. Well, in this video, I'll be covering some, but not all, of the water type Pokemon found in my vibrant Brazil-inspired Fakemon region, the Zonhe region. Found all along its tropical coasts and beautiful beaches, far out at sea or deep underwater within its colorful coral reefs, not to mention within its wetlands, gorgeous rivers and lakes, including the massive river coursing through the region's massive tropical rainforests, as well as its large picturesque waterfalls bringing in tourists from all over the world. In this video, I'll also be introducing 3 crucial characters to the Zonhe region's story, all of which using a prominent water type on their team. So let's dive right in. In this video, I'll also be exploring the inspiration for more of the Zonhe region's biomes, or locations, and going into the family dynamics of some of the most prominent characters found within the upcoming Zonhe Chronicles here on my YouTube channel and hypothetical games, Pokémon Push and Pokémon Pull. The iconic Rio Trio. 3 siblings who quickly rose to fame as child stars, dominating media, the pop charts, starring in major motion pictures at the Zonhe's PokeStar Studios, dazzling in Pokemon contests, and even on the battlefield as renowned Pokemon trainers. With the youngest, Maria, who a lot of you remember from the Finizen saga here on YouTube, as she's the water-type gym leader of the Norse-inspired Finizen region, having moved to this peaceful and isolated Arctic region after traumatic events humiliated her in front of the entire world, as she needed to escape the pressures of fame and her family in search of solace amongst the tenacious water-type Pokemon found in the Finizen region's cold and rough waters. Since this massive scandal years later, her 2 siblings are seemingly thriving in her absence, as her brother, heartthrob movie star Marino, has not only become an A-lister saving the day and winning hearts on the big screen, but has also since become the water-type gym leader of the Zonhe region, wowing audiences with his star-studded team of water-type Pokemon. Deep underwater in the Sea Reef City Gym, inspired by the coastal city in Brazil, nicknamed the Venice of Brazil because of its numerous waterways and bridges. It is also one of the largest and most important cities on Brazil's northeastern coast, including a colorful historic old town, beaches, and vibrant culture. Its name made me think of reef, which is why I added coral reefs around it, and while I kept part of its real-life charms, since it's normally already divided by bridges and waterways, I put a large part of the city underwater instead. As like Pokemon, I like to take creative liberties with my Fakemon regions, as that's one of the things that make the fictional world of Pokemon so much fun. Otherwise, what's the point? Marino's co-star and ace Pokemon is the dashing Gentlfin, who may appear like an ordinary Zonhe and Finizen found within the rivers of the Zonhe region. Much like the Amazon River dolphin it's inspired by in real life, found in the Amazon River and all throughout South America. But after infatuating and stealing the hearts of its foes with moves like Attract or its signature attack River Dance, it transforms into its beefy bachelor form. Inspired by the popular Brazilian myth Bodo Encantado, which tells the story of a pink river dolphin that transforms itself into a human for reasons I'm not going to get into in this video, but let's just say the whole infatuation gimmick is a respectable way of tackling this story. Now, while a lot of you have come to find out in some of my previous videos, Marino is far from a nice guy or the hero he plays on and off the big screen, as he harbors deep guilt for the shameful public incident that led to his younger sister's fall from grace, causing her not only to step out of the limelight, but to travel as far from the Zonhe region as she could get, somewhere I'm sure she was hoping no one would recognize her. But while Maria's star has gone dark, their older sister Iara's star is shining brighter than ever, as she has since become one of the biggest pop stars not only in the Zonhe region, but the entire world. Admired not only for her music and unrivaled stage presence, but for her beauty as she has branched out into the world of modeling, cinema, and even dabbled in social and environmental activism as an advocate for the world's oceans. But the only thing stronger than the Riptide that is her undeniable influence as a pop superstar is the tidal wave of power she possesses as the champion of the Zonhe region, with a formidable team of femme fatale Pokemon that are just as diverse and versatile as she is, including her ace Pokemon, the Zonhe region Pseudo, the sensational Sealebrity, who I will be covering in great detail later on in this video, along with the rest of its evolutionary line. Now, like her brother, Champion Iara is far from the picture-perfect persona she puts on for the world, as she too harbors some deep secrets far beneath the surface that she will do just about anything to avoid from surfacing and sinking her pristine reputation. And please let me know what you think of these three characters, particularly the new revealed champion, Iara, as she will obviously be a vital part of the Zonhe region's narrative. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I've personally got quite the crush on her, as Trainer Motts absolutely nailed her as he does all his characters, so I'm curious to see what all of you think. Is this what you expected for the champion of the Zonhe region? I personally have yet to do a female champion or mixed type champion for one of my Fakemon regions, so she checked both boxes, especially as I've personally always wanted more out of the female champions, as let's just say, with the exception of my girl Cynthia, who is a total badass obviously, the other female champions are pretty lackluster in my personal opinion. But you may disagree. Once again, let me know what you think in the comments down below. This family feud will be front and center within the Zonhe Chronicles as Maria returns to the Zonhe region to finally confront her infamous family. Now that the Rio family has had their own little promotional tour, let's take a step back and look at some of the wonderful water-type Pokemon encountered in the tropical Zonhe region. Most of which either found along its coast or beaches, if not out at sea or on the sea floor, as well as in its freshwater lakes and rivers, primarily the large river in the region inspired by the massive Amazon River found throughout Brazil and other parts of South America. Okay, so they're basically everywhere in the Zonhe region, as the water type is easily the most represented type in the Zonhe Pokedex. You've actually seen a handful of them already, including the water type starter, Scoopara, inspired by South America's cute water-loving critter, the capybara. A creature not only known for being a good swimmer, but being quite the vocalist with the wide variety of sounds it uses to communicate even while underwater, inspiring its evolution. And of course Zonhenian Finizen and its regional evolution Gentlfin, which we already went over, once again inspired by the Amazon, Pink River Dolphin, and the legend of Bodo Encantado. As well as the water type form of Dartad and Sapoder, inspired by poison dart frogs, with various different colorful forms inspired by the various patterns of the poison dart frog. Sapoder evolves into Elementoad using an elemental stone for its respective type. So a leaf stone for the leaf pattern, fire stone for the flame pattern, water stone for the rain pattern, and thunder stone for the thunder pattern. But you'll just have to wait a little bit longer to see what Elementoad and its forms looks like. And of course there are plenty you may already be familiar with native to other regions, but two of the Zonhe Pokemon you've gotten brief glimpses of in the past are Passotter and Manatate. Both found in or around the Zonhe region's freshwater lakes and rivers, primarily within its rainforest and Pantanal marsh areas. So let's start by taking a look at these two Pokemon and their evolutions. Starting with Psychic Water type Manatate, inspired by Brazilian manatees found within its rivers and other fresh bodies of water, as well as Catholic monks, as a subtle reference to Catholicism's prominent role and deep-rooted history within Brazil, with the algae normally found on the backs of manatees now resembling a monk's cloak. It's also poised in a peaceful meditative position, hence its name Manatate being a play on manatee and meditate. Also explaining its psychic typing, along with the fact that manatees themselves are also considered to be quite spiritual beings, which is what led me to come up with this monk concept in the first place, as I thought it couldn't be more fitting and would make for a creative and unique way to incorporate the algae on its back into its design. Manatate evolves into Manabbot, its name being a play on manatee and abbot, being a type of monk once again, as it piggybacks off its smaller pre-evolution's concept and design with an extra pop of color added in. Now in yet another tranquil pose, but this time praying. Praying that you hit that like and subscribe button to my channel. This tanky Pokemon has high HP and defense stats, in addition to being a mixed attacker with Psychic type attacks like Meditate, Psychic, Rest, Calm Mind, and Zen Headbutt at its disposal, in addition to plenty of Water type attacks for both of its attack types. Like the manatees in Brazil, these Pokemon can be found relaxing within the rivers of the Zonhe region, along with plenty of other Water type Pokemon. These two Pokemon were brought to life by the talented artist I commissioned, Tubbs_AZ, who is also responsible for covering the next evolutionary line we will be covering. Starting with the spunky fighting water type Pokemon Passotter, inspired by river otters, most notably the giant river otters found throughout Brazil and much of South America, as well as Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fighters, who are martial artists specializing in grappling techniques, which is where its name comes from, as it's a term found throughout Jiu-Jitsu. Its karate-esque pose looks like it's ready to go kung fu fighting, with its fur resembling the robes and belts worn by Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fighters, which can even come in blue, by the way. This Pokemon, while small and cute, packs quite the punch, but really lives up to the name of the giant river otter it's inspired by, after evolving into Guillotter, named after yet another Jiu-Jitsu grappling technique, the guillotine, as it shares its first stages, Jiu-Jitsu fighter and giant river otter inspirations, but expanding upon them even further with a beard resembling that of the giant river otter and a more poised and controlled pose, as it looks like it's ready to counter whatever you throw at it, being a heavy-handed physical attacker in addition to being quite speedy and swift, capable of quickly executing water-type attacks such as Aqua Jet, Flip Turn, or Aqua Tail, in addition to lots of fierce fighting-type attacks such as Submission, Reversal, Cross Chop, Chokehold, and Close Combat, many of which representing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu style techniques. So which of these two version exclusives do you prefer, and would either of them make your team in the Zonhe region? Please let me know down in the comments below. The next Pokemon I'd like to introduce isn't actually a water-type Pokemon, despite being found in the ocean are based on a sea creature or fish or whatever, as those are some of my favorite Pokemon, as I really don't believe all fish or sea creatures need to be water types by default. There's plenty of perfect examples of this, so I'm happy to introduce normal-type Nurtureef. Many trainers spotting Nurtureef in the waters of the Zonhe region or along its beaches often run in fear of this Pokemon, but in reality, Nurtureef are incredibly docile and nurturing Pokemon. Who would have guessed? Often emerging out of the water to help injured Pokemon or people along the shore by softly biting down on their injuries, which may sound scary and initially startle most, as they may think it's trying to take advantage of them in a moment of weakness, but it's actually the opposite. They only want to help those in need with its gentle bite, as Nurtureef's saliva is known to have miraculous healing properties that does wonders, especially after entering the bloodstream. So I guess it just bites down just gently enough to get into the bloodstream and heal that injury. If it wasn't already obvious, this Pokemon is inspired by the nurse sharks found in the tropical waters along some of the coast of Brazil, as well as literal nurses or healthcare workers. Nurtureef's name is a reflection of its nurturing nature mixed with reef, like the ones these sharks can be found lurking in. It's a normal type because it is the partner Pokemon assisting Nurse Joy in Pokemon centers within the Zonhe region, as I have created a nurse Pokemon tailored for my previous two Fakemon regions, so I wanted to do the same for Zonhe, and I wanted to have a Pokemon that fit its tropical vibes. And it just so happens the nurse shark species is found in tropical subtropical waters like those in Brazil. And more importantly, the Pokemon typically found working in Pokemon centers in both games and anime are notably normal types for some reason or another, so I wanted to stay true to that. Plus, I also felt it was fitting as nurse sharks being bottom feeders are actually not dangerous to humans and fairly docile compared to most shark species, usually minding their own business along the bottom of the seafloor. Of course, like any shark species, there's always exceptions though, so I don't recommend going to try to pet one. Anyways, this is to kind of explain its normal typing, as well as the lack of its water typing, aka Stab, as it's meant to represent the fact it's fairly harmless and more of a supporting Pokemon with healing or restorative moves such as Aqua Ring, Life Dew, and Heal Pulse at its disposal, with more HP than anything, and other design elements remnant of other Nurse Joy associated Pokemon such as Chansey. And like Chansey, it is capable of evolving, but through one of those Pokemon Company's crazy evolution methods, like those annoying ones they've had in the last couple years. In this case, you have to have your Nurtureef healed at a Pokemon Center at least 50 times. And no sitting at the desk and healing it repeatedly doesn't work, as it needs to actually have taken damage and be bandaged up by Nurse Joy for its visit to the Pokemon Center to count. But as annoying as this sounds, it is worth it as Nurtureef evolves into the ginormous Infirmareef. Infirmareef are known as the ambulance of the seas, as they swallow smaller Pokemon such as Schools of Love Disc to help protect them from predators such as Sharpedo and heal them with the healing properties of saliva found in its mouth. Infirmareef maintains a lot of the same elements of Nurtureef, but now being inspired by ambulances, as its dex entry suggests, and it also is based on whale sharks rather than the nurse shark, as these massive fish, much like the nurse shark inhabiting tropical oceans, can also be found throughout Brazil's waters. I also felt this inspirational transition was fitting, as like the nurse shark, these sharks are also quite harmless as they feed almost exclusively on plankton and small fish and do not pose any threats to humans, helping to preserve its normal typing but now adopting the water typing upon evolving as well, giving a little more edge offensively, in addition to its sky-high HP and reliable defense stats. This line was brought to life by the phenomenally talented Fungus Fakemon, as I knew it would be a hard concept to get just right, and he does cute so well, speaking of which he's also responsible for bringing the next Pokemon to life, the wildcard Harlefin. A single-stage water dark-type Pokemon based on the clownfish found in coral reefs, and well, literal clowns of course. However, I knew this has been overdone in the Fakemon community, the whole clownfish clown concept, so I tried to make it as unique as possible, and to do so, I decided to try to make its crazy colorful clown hair resemble the sea anemone found in coral reefs that clownfish use as shelter, and while clownfish aren't actually found in Brazil's waters, they do meet the requirements for them to live, and there are of course plenty of coral reefs in Brazil. And if we're being honest, only about 50% of any Pokédex ever really correlates with its respective regions, wildlife, or culture in real life, and that's being generous. So I'm personally trying to branch out a little bit in my own Fakemon regions, as I feel like it makes the region feel a little bit more authentic. But that being said, clownfish apparently can be found throughout aquariums and even fish tanks throughout Brazil, despite not being native to the waters. So they're technically still there, and there are also some famous clowns in Brazil as well. Anyways, I also wanted to incorporate its water typing by allowing it to make balloons out of bubbles to bounce on or entertain others. And while I realize Popplio already does this, it doesn't mean it can't be reused, and Harlefin takes it a step further, also being able to make balloon animals, or I guess Pokemon rather, out of bubbles like the ones clowns make for children. This Pokemon has a male and female form, with its female form being even more colorful, inspired by an actual fish called the Harlefin tusk, with colors and even stripes similar to the clownfish, but with even more vibrant blues and bright reds thrown into the mix. It is found exclusively in the region's coral reef area, much like the real clownfish, and is quite common, so you shouldn't have any trouble catching one. At least in its male form, whereas its more colorful female form will be a little bit more harder to find. While it may not evolve, it has plenty of useful moves at its disposal, and is even used as one of Maria's new Pokemon in the Zonhe region. This Pokemon, once again, was done by Fungus Fakemon, so please make sure to go give him some love. Another new Pokemon found in the coral reefs surrounding the underwater city of Seareef are the region's pseudo-Pokemon, starting with the cute and cuddly Cutsea. Being a water and dragon type Pokemon inspired by sea slugs, primarily the blue Naughty Branch sea slug, as I thought it was both quite cute and majestic looking. Those of you wondering where the dragon type comes in, that kind of comes into play in its evolutions, but it's not exactly the first time we've had a dragon type slug either. Cutsea was actually Maria's first partner Pokemon, and her ace while she was younger, and here in the Zonhe region. Back when her and her siblings were all child stars, Maria and her Cutsea were inseparable, and making waves due to how cute they both were, which is why Maria started receiving the most attention, as she was the youngest of the three, and therefore perceived by most as the most innocent or cute of the three, causing both her sibling Marino and Iara to become increasingly jealous of her, and all the attention she was receiving, which is why they hatched their plan to publicly humiliate her in front of everyone, something no one else to this day even suspects they're even capable of doing. Anyways, after fleeing to the Fiern region, Maria left her Cutsea behind with her older sister Iara, as she felt she was only holding it back, as she knew how much it loved the spotlight, much like her siblings. So she didn't want to stand in the way of its dreams, and thought it may even flourish under Iara's care due to their shared interests. Although what Maria doesn't know is that Cutsea was devastated after being abandoned by her, missing her dearly, especially as Iara, being a perfectionist and quite ambitious, was a lot tougher on it. Because of this work ethic and drive Iara instilled in it, Cutsea did eventually evolve into a Seava, and a total diva, just like its owner. still inspired by sea slugs, most prominently the one most commonly referred to as the blue dragon sea slug, now truly earning its dragon typing. And fun fact, this species is also poisonous, so despite not having the poison typing, as I didn't feel it really fit the pop star diva concept I was going for, I mean outside of a diva's toxic attitude, it can learn poison type moves as a reference to this. And look, I know people are sick of dragon type pseudos, but if I'm being honest, water dragon is just a much better typing, and being that it's not only the pseudo, but the ace of the champion, that's something that I felt was important. Anyways, Seava now takes inspiration from divas, as its name suggests, and pop stars, evident by its singing pose, looking less cutesy and even more mature and majestic after evolving, but not reaching its full potential and becoming a true pop star or diva until finally evolving into the true pseudo Sealebrity, its name being a play on sea and celebrity, to continue this concept and mirror its trainer champion Iara's status as a pop superstar, expanding upon Seava's inspiration and design elements even further, particularly that of the blue dragon sea slug, as I just find that creature to look so majestic and really thought its vibrant blue coloring and unique pattern would lend itself perfectly to this concept and design, with its frills appearing more like a dress's drapings. And it also looks more mermaid-like, not only to give it that more feminine or princess-like quality, but because it also takes inspiration from a mermaid from Brazilian mythology known as Iara, who its trainer is obviously named after, by the way, to further this connection. Since the pseudo is typically used by the champion, I really wanted to make the pseudo embody Iara and her aesthetic, and if I'm being honest, outside of Gudra, whom I adore, we don't really have many feminine or girly pseudos, so I felt another one was long overdue. But don't mistake Sealebrity's beauty as weakness, as this girl boss not only has an impressive typing, but the pseudo's standard 600 base stats and lethal poison type attacks up its sleeve, like Poison Tail, but it is a mixed attacker with moves like Hydro Pump, Dragon Pulse, Dazzling Gleam, Dragon Dance, and Aqua Tail in its repertoire, ready to sink your team. This line was also done by artist Tubbs_AZ, so please make sure to follow him and check out his work, as he is the real star of this video, but there are plenty of other artists I've worked with to make this video possible, as well as the rest of the Zonhe region, so please make sure to do yourself a favor and go check them out and give them some love as well. If you like the water types in this video, there are plenty more to come in the Zonhe region, inspired by Brazilian wildlife and culture. So my Brazilian followers, if you think to yourself, oh, something like this bad boy is missing, do not worry, it will be revealed later down the line. Anyways, let me know which of these new water type Pokemon was your favorite down in the comments below. I love to see it, and I want to know if any of them make it on your team. Stay tuned for even more Zonhe videos, and thank you so much for watching.